Welcome, children of God, loved and saved by Jesus. This is the Christ for Disciplers podcast. And I'm Pastor Paul Steinberg, first discipled by my parents, Ken and Don, and now busy discipling my 6 adult kids, and along with the City for God, 6,500 kids around Milwaukee and Racine. We take 10 minutes every weekday to disciple ourselves so we can better disciple the children God has placed into our lives. This week, looking at Jesus' crucifixion and trial from Mark chapter 15. Are you good at insulting? Are you clever? Whether that's clever like in a quick cleverness where if you hear something you can shoot back at them, something really fast, and you can drop the mic on them, or maybe you're clever that you can pause and you can deeply think and you can write something back. Maybe it's a social media thing, maybe it's a delayed thing, but you can write something. You can really come up with something clever. Just to get them and nail them, and man, you enjoy it. For me, I gotta admit, I'm pretty good at insulting people. I have a lot of insults that unfortunately go through my head all the time. It's part of my arrogance coming through and part of just my ideation ability. I got a lot of stuff, and I gotta be careful to not blurt it out, not let it kind of fill up my head. Those sins just kind of get on there, but I can enjoy it. I can enjoy insulting somebody else, especially when it's just kind of time for everyone to insult. There's just some good mockery going on. I can just kind of fall in. Now in our lesson, we're going to see that happening to Jesus. It's not just one or two. It's not just the soldiers that mocked him. That's what just happened, where the professionals mocked him, the ones that maybe really didn't know any better. They didn't really understand. You can forgive them for just being soldiers and having another Jewish guy with a title come through, but now it's going to be the Jewish people themselves, and even thieves are going to join in all this. It's mock Jesus time, and everybody wants to get on the deal because they think it makes them better. The soldiers, they got done mocking him. Now it was business time. Now to head to the cross, but everyone else, they still had their mocking time to do. Here the account now from Mark chapter 15, beginning at verse 21. A certain man from Cyrene, Simon, the father of Alexander and Rufus, was passing by on his way in from the country, and they forced him to carry the cross. They brought Jesus to the place called Golgotha, which means the place of the skull. Then they offered him wine mixed with myrrh, but he did not take it, and they crucified him. Dividing up his clothes, they cast lots to see what each would get. It was 9 a.m. when they crucified him. The written notice of the charge against him read, "The King of the Jews." They crucified 2 rebels with him, one on his right and one on his left. Those who passed by hurled insults at him, shaking their heads and saying, "So you who are going to destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, come down from the cross and save yourself." In the same way, the chief priests and the teachers of the law mocked him among themselves. "He saved others," they said, "but he can't save himself. Let this Messiah, this King of Israel, come down now from the cross that we may see and believe." Those crucified with him also heaped insults on him. So it's a fest, of insults. But before that, we see this just little note that a guy named Cyrene carries the cross for Jesus. A little picture, I think, of how whenever we follow Jesus, we have to carry a little cross. But it's noted that he's the father of Alexander and Rufus, which seems to indicate that the audience would have known those 2 guys as believers. It's an interesting way for Jesus to get a connection with this family. And then Jesus follows with everybody else to the place of the skull, probably because it looked like a skull, probably because he reminded people of the skull, and then he didn't take the pain medicine. He didn't take the aspirin. He's got to be experiencing all this pain, and he's like, "No, don't do it. I'm going to take all the pain." And then they divvied up the very little bit that he had. Everybody got a little piece, rolling the dice, but he was called the King of the Jews. That was his charge, and he was that. And when you think that's bad enough, now it's the rebels are mocking him, and people just passing by are mocking him. And then the chief priests are everyone's having a good time, and they're all saying, if he would just come down from the cross, we'd believe in him. Then he'd show us. But that he had all kinds of miracles he did that were greater than coming down from a cross. He raised the dead. He raised the dead. They had witnesses to that, but yet they didn't care. They were that intent because they wanted to crucify him. For us, we see this crowd crucifying him, and how about us? How do we crucify Jesus? We make a fun of him when we pretend like he's really not there. When we go on with life, we do our things. When we think that Jesus is being a little bit weak, we insult Jesus. We mock him in our minds. You might wonder, when do you get a chance to mock Jesus? Well, remember Jesus said, whatever you do for the least of these, you do for me. And so the way we treat the oppressed, the down, the handicapped, the young, the old, the infirm, when we mock them for whatever reason, and we do that. We mock people with handicaps. Whenever we do that, we're mocking Jesus. And for all that, we and our kids, we deserve eternal punishment. But Jesus still chose to be mocked in our place. He chose to do it. He could have come down from the cross, but he chose to stay there. He did it every way possible. And he continues to connect with us by the gospel. That just a unique way of connecting with Alexander and Rufus and their father. That he got to carry the cross. I don't know, were they believers before that? Did that stick out? Did they learn more? How did this work? But it sure seems like that was a way that made that extra connection. And Jesus found a way, whether it was good or bad or scary or hard work, for you and I to be connected with Jesus. And we see Jesus willing to take on the full suffering. Don't give any of that wine mixed with myrrh. I'll take on the full pain because I want the full forgiveness of sins. And Jesus was willing to be put in the midst of criminals, to be treated as the sinner he wasn't. So you and I will be put in the midst of God. So you and I will be put in the midst of God's people who are seen perfect because of the work of Jesus. As forgiven children, now we take the insults others give us. We train our children to be ready to be insulted on the way, to go the whole way, to not suffer a little bit, but if we got to suffer the whole thing, we're willing to go all the way for the sake of the gospel. We have to be ready. And we will get some good insults thrown at us, and then we're in the Jesus Club, and then we can share back gospel and good news with those who insult us. Thanks for taking 600 seconds so Christ doesn't take second in your life or the life of the kids that God's called you to serve. Now receive the blessing to receive that power to take the insults. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. The Lord look on you with favor and give you peace. Amen.